What's up, Broncos Country? Team reporter and host Sydney Jones here, coming to you from the newly renamed Centura Health Training Center. Coming up on today's episode of Broncos Now, we'll recap a rookie minicamp that took place this weekend, your head coach Sean Payton's thoughts, and more. The Denver Broncos hosted nearly 60 players for this year's rookie minicamp. Head coach Sean Payton spoke following Saturday's practice, and he discussed how he approaches rookie minicamp every year and what he expects from these young players.
Really trying to look at every one of these guys, evaluate them properly with an open mind and knowing that history would tell us that, there's players that get overlooked and it's not a science. So I would say this: yesterday we were inside. The challenge always with these practices are tempo and then educating them on staying up and, working together without pads. I would say in my 16 years, the practice we had yesterday and today, just relative to the OTA tempo, was very good. So we try to show them a lot of film beforehand of what it looks like, because some of them, may be coming from college programs that haven't had practices like this. So I've been pleased that way. Obviously, a lot of teaching going on, and then the PM, we're kind of really in a walkthrough mode.
Coach Payton also went on to talk about how he balanced on-field work and film study this weekend.
It's all of it. It's getting prepared, and then also understanding, hey, you're currently behind the group that's been here, and so that you're not going to make it up this weekend, but you're currently behind that group relative to conditioning level, a lot of things. And so it's beginning that process of the physical, the mental, and then the stuff that's outside of football, getting acclimated to the way we want to do things. And so the itinerary, is always tinkered with. And each year we look at it and adjust it and change it. Sometimes we change it because rules change, but there's a balance to all of it.
The team held 27 tryout players among the 58 guys that participated in rookie camp this weekend, and head coach Sean Payton detailed what he hoped to see from them.
For me, my biggest fear is that somebody that's out here for 3 days ends up somewhere else playing well. And so really trying to look at everyone, not just the draft picks, but the guys that are here for 3 days. And the challenge sometimes, because, we're not in pads, if any one of us, we're just here for 3 days, we're going to go pretty hard and try to make an impression.
We also heard from the 2023 draft picks this weekend. Here's what safety J.L. Skinner, inside linebacker Drew Sanders, wide receiver Marvin Mims Jr., cornerback Riley Moss, and center Alex Forsythe had to say following Saturday's practice.
I'm just a football player, That's really the best way to describe it. Things I could work on, just covering those smaller slots, really just getting acclimated to the NFL game. But I'm just a ball player, I want to do everything to contribute, do everything for us to win, do things like that. So I just want to, just continue to become a better player and just develop in every way. There's not one thing I want to continue to develop in. I just got here. I'm not, nowhere near where I'm supposed to be. So just continue to develop every day and, just learn from the vets, learn from everyone around. So
I'm pretty excited just to get back to football. I'm enjoying, learning a new defense and, being out there with new teammates, and I'm just having a blast.
It's a dream come true, honestly. Ever since I was a little kid, just looking up, watching on TV, and just to be here, it feels surreal. But, it's here. So just time to take care of business, do what I can.
Make plays. That's the biggest thing, especially playing DB. You have to be able to, affect, the game and hopefully, get the ball to the offense. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then, doing whatever I need to do and do it at 100%.
I think my coaches in college, early on, they really pushed me to play right tackle through left tackle pretty much wherever I could, be of service. So I think that definitely helped elevate my game, the understanding of the offensive line and the offense, what we were trying to do. So for me, that was really ended up, it was kind of frustrating at first because it's hard to master all those positions. But then kind of once you start to figure it out, you start to appreciate it a lot more. And so I appreciated my coaches doing that. Now where I'm at, just kind of having a better understanding of offensive schemes and stuff like that.
Now joining me here inside the Broncos podcast studio to recap the weekend is fellow team reporter Phil Milani. Phil, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sid.
Yeah, of course. It was a busy weekend here. Another busy weekend. I feel like the past couple weeks have been really busy. But with rookie minicamp, there were 58 players that were here. I mean, that's a lot, especially compared to the last couple of years.
Yeah. I thought, it was interesting. Sean Payton said his biggest thing was you don't want to have a player leave your rookie minicamp, go to another team and have success there. And then he's back here reading about it.
Yeah. He said that was his biggest fear.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Broncos getting a look at a lot of different guys and just trying to find the right fits here for the Broncos.
Definitely. Yeah. Phil, we were both here on Saturday. Saw the viewing period of practice. Was there anyone out there that kind of caught your eye? Anyone that stood out to you?
Well, I think the funniest moment, I guess, or I don't know if it was funny for Ben DiNucci, but Sean Payton after practice said that during practice he was hanging out with the ownership group, talking to Greg Penner there, and he was saying, "Hey, this guy Ben DiNucci, he's been playing pretty well." And fans probably know DiNucci from Hard Knocks a couple of years ago, really heavily featured when they were with the Cowboys. So he was talking up DiNucci, and right when he's doing that, he throws a pick six to Drew Sanders. So that was a funny moment, I think. And then he said, well, I guess he could work for Walmart. He can be a greeter there if it doesn't work out in football. So, but nice to know that Drew Sanders is out there making plays,
Yep, he looks good.
Yeah, and I think that's a guy that a lot of fans are interested in just seeing what he could be like, because he was a guy who was all world coming out of high school, went to Alabama for a couple of years, then transferred to Arkansas, and a lot of people thought maybe he'd go pretty early in the draft, but Broncos were able to get him in the third round. And so I think there's some intrigue to know, what's this guy going to bring to the team? And is he going to be this pressure type player and what that means? And so nice to just see him and all of the guys, really, just to put a face to the voices that we heard over draft weekend and see what they look like when they put on a jersey.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you said it was nice to see a lot of the draft picks get out there and get their feet wet. I know Marvin Mims Jr., he said, after he was drafted, he was kind of like, well, what do I do now? So he was itching to get on the field and get over here.
Yeah, it was. It's just nice to just even see them in person too, and be
definitely.
like, wow, JL Skinner is really tall.
He is,
you can feel that presence. Or, I thought that Riley Moss had a big personality, and it's just nice to just get a feel for what these guys are about, because you don't really get that over the phone or, during the draft, they're just so excited. They're not really themselves,
Yeah,
so
they're nervous, anxious.
Yeah. So one, to just see what they look like in person out on the field, because we're so used to, when we watch the practice, we're so used to seeing Broncos players, and established NFL guys. So then when you see the rookies come in, you're like, do they fit into what we're normally seeing out there? Or are they not as fast? Are they not as big, or this or that? I didn't feel like that with any of those guys. So that was good. And then also the personality part of it, just getting to chat with them in the locker room for a little bit there. That was sort of interesting. Never done that before.
No, not in
during rookie
minicamp.
minicamp, having an open locker room. Sean Payton said, hey, that was just to give these guys a taste for what it's like in the season, when you go in there. Of course, media gets 45-minute window there. And so they did that for the open locker room period here for rookie minicamp. Yeah. Of course, Sean Payton said that he was giving out a gift card to the most generic answer.
I know. I wonder who won it.
I wonder who won that. Yeah. I think that that was an interesting little thing, just to teach these guys a little something about media.
Yeah, I love it. It was really the first time we saw this coaching staff out on the field
for
that too. Practice, so that was cool as well.
Yeah, you got to see Sean out there with his orange visor. And he was wearing that Broncos hoodie for the first time out on the field. And somebody asked him, I think it was Zach Stevens, I said, hey, what you feel like you're settling in now? And he was like, yeah, I think so. Now it feels real.
Yeah, great to see. Well, unrelated to rookie minicamp, Phil, Sean Payton did say that Javonte Williams, his rehab is going really well, and he's expected to be able to play at the start of training camp. So that's great news.
Really, that was probably the biggest news that came out of the weekend, right? Is just what's going on with Javonte, what's going on with that running back room. Because the Broncos, I think a lot of people thought maybe they'd be adding to that room. Maybe they would have tried to bring back Latavius Murray. You know, just people thought that there was going to be more action this offseason at the running back position. But the Broncos obviously feel like they didn't need to because Javonte's rehabbing well. So they brought in Samaje Perine, of course, but then just thought maybe there'd be more than that. And Sean this weekend was like, hey, we expect Javonte Williams to be ready for the start of training camp. If you're not ready for the start of training camp, you have to go on PUP, and that's a whole long process for getting back out onto the field. If there's a way for Javonte to avoid that, get back out there, that would be really a positive sign for the Broncos because last year, he was supposed to be this breakout player, this second-year jump that he was supposed to make. The offense was supposed to be, you know, centered around a lot of what Javonte could do.
Right.
And then for him to just go down so early in the season, it was so disappointing. And, you know, we've seen guys in the past come back quickly from an ACL. Like Adrian Peterson did that, I think, in like 8 months. So I think this would be a little more than 9 months for Javonte, which would still be pretty quick.
Would be quick, yeah.
But if he's able to do that, that would be a big thing for this Broncos team. Just once again, I feel like they're trying to run the football here. I mean, they got some big dudes up front.
They really do.
They want to play a little smash mouth football. So. Obviously, if Javonte's healthy, that's a big difference for this offense.
Yeah, great news there for sure. Coach Payton also mentioned a potential joint practice with the Rams. That was, I felt like, kind of the big tidbit outside of Javonte Williams news there. You know, nothing really official yet, but he said he's been in talks with Sean McVay. And, of course, that's a home game, so that joint practice would be here. So that's exciting as well.
Yeah, he was asked about the schedule, and, you know, and he mentioned some things there. But, yeah, he mentioned that in the preseason they were going to play the Rams. And then they're working on doing a joint practice. And, you know, I think that just is especially if it's the last week of the season, of the preseason it kind of just is a change of scenery, you know, like just in terms of the guys you're lining up against, you know, you're sick of playing against your teammates in practice. So
same people every day.
Just seeing a different color uniform out there, it makes a big difference. So I think that especially if you're playing against a team like the Rams, you know, that they're well coached with Sean McVay, you know, there's not going to be any funny business, you hope, out there, and you can get some really good work. So, interesting to hear that from him. He also mentioned that like after a game against Buffalo on the road, a Monday night game, instead of leaving right away, which is how the Broncos have done it forever. He said, hey, I think that it's more beneficial to spend the night there.
That so way you're not getting back at like 3 a.m.
Exactly. So
I love that.
Interesting. All these coaches like to do things a little bit differently. So that was our first time hearing those types of things from Sean.
Well, Phil, hopefully we'll hear from some other guys here soon. As I know, Coach Payton said they're in phase 2 of the offseason program, and that's going to ramp up here within the next week or so.
Yeah, it's crazy. Once the rookies get here, it really feels like the offseason gets going, and then they'll be integrated with the vets that have been around for a while. And then, like you mentioned, hopefully we'll get a chance to hear from some guys who've been around here. We haven't heard from Russell Wilson since Sean Payton's been hired.
Right.
So
it's been a while.
Just to get a little bit of insight from him on what's been going on. Talk to guys about learning this offense, you know. I think that hopefully we'll get to know a little bit more about this Broncos team once we hear from these guys. And I know they're not building up hype or talking about expectations and that type of thing, but just to hear like how the tone in the building is a little bit different now with Sean Payton leading the way. That's going to be really insightful, and we'll know more about this Broncos team here over the next couple of weeks. But it's crazy how fast the offseason program gets moving here.
It really is.
Feels like the guys just got back. But in reality, you know, there's like a month left here, and then
training camp.
There'll be a little break, and then training camp will be here. So, it
always flies by.
It does. Yeah, it really does.
Well, Phil, appreciate you joining the show today. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Sid.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you'll meet me right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube next week for another episode. I'll see you all then.